Are you tired of feeling overlooked and underestimated? Hi, I'm Tammy North, the Introverted Executives Coach. If you're an introverted executive or you're ready to rise to senior leadership, but you're struggling to be seen as a high potential, this podcast is for you. In the last episode, we talked about how you can learn to think more strategically and why that's important. And once you become highly familiar with the strategic intent of your organization and you become very well versed with the current and projected future of your industry, you're going to start to notice that things never remain the same. We live in a dynamic world and it's always shifting, always ebbing and flowing. And this is one opportunity for introverts where they can shine because you are so analytic. You're such a deep thinker. You have the ability to process large amounts of information, both written and produced content. But there's also nuances that others probably miss, like that sound of your CEO's voice, the facial expression of that one gentleman at the board meeting, the meaning or intent behind one of the industry giants' words in a major speech. Yeah, you notice it all. And because of this, it's very likely that you see changes coming before other people do. Not all change is announced with fanfare and marching bands. Very often, the change just starts to peek its head up in small ways here and there. And 20 years from now, somebody's going to write a book about this time, and they're going to talk about all of those moments, and they'll seem so obvious in the future. But people will think, if I only realized sooner. But you have noticed. You do see it. I want you to start to train yourself to believe when you see these indications. Train yourself to notice the shifting sands early. Teach yourself to become an early adopter of change. Change is not bad or good in of itself. It's simply a reality. What you choose to do when you see the change coming is what makes it a positive or negative experience for you. You have values. You have things you deeply care about, things that are critical to your personal integrity and to your soul. This is true especially if you're a deeply spiritual person. You have the direction you wish things would go, and you have the desire to create a positive impact in the world. Your values, beliefs, and personal vision will all impact how you guide change in your own life, including within your own organization and generally within your industry. You probably know people, maybe you've even had these moments where you try to stop things from changing, and you might do so because you're standing on a platform of your values, your beliefs, or your integrity. These are important moments. You will have to decide what's right for you in these moments. You know when it's the time to stand on your platform and on your integrity and stand for what you believe in. But the key is to know that things do change. Sometimes they change slowly and sometimes very suddenly, but inevitably change is going to happen. When you find yourself resisting any kind of change that you feel coming, ask yourself why you are resisting it. If you truly believe it's wrong, immoral, or dangerous, decide what you're going to do about it and what you're willing to risk to move things in the right direction. As I said, these are important moments where some of the greatest leaders of all time have emerged. And I can't tell you personally what to do at these times, but these moments do come. They may be minor and easily navigated, or they could be major, world-changing events. The decision you make in the critical moments could make all the difference to your organization's success, the outcomes for your customer, and especially to your integrity and personal reputation. But sometimes you'll notice that you're resisting change, and if you're truly honest with yourself, it has nothing to do with it being wrong, immoral, or dangerous. Sometimes you simply resist it because you are comfortable with the way things are. You have your current leadership position in autopilot. It's challenging enough, but you have plenty of time to get everything done. You have a solid team of people, and sure, they might also be on autopilot to some degree because no processes or deliverables have changed in like 2 to 3 years. So they come in, punch the clock, create their widget, and go home. Let's say you have, 32 people working on your current team. Sometimes you'll notice you're resisting change when the strategic intent starts to shift and there's a discussion about an emerging opportunity, and maybe the board or the CEO have started to consider that they might create a new division, but it is going to take some realignment. If you notice that you're resisting the change, take some time to ask yourself why. Is it really because it's wrong? Is there any chance that you simply don't want to disrupt your comfortable routine? Also, is there any chance that you're worried that you might go from 32 people to 29 people on your team? Really, would that be wrong? And also, you could even be wrong that that is what the outcome would be. So always take time to question why you have the resistance. There is an alternative, especially if you want to control your own outcome as a leader in the organization. You could choose to embrace the change that is coming and to jump in wholeheartedly and do your part to make sure that it happens in the best way possible for the customer, in the best way possible for the organization, and in the best way possible for you. This past week, I read a book called Crack the C-Suite Code: How Successful Leaders Make It to the Top by Dr. Cassandra Frangos. In this book, she described 4 paths by which people usually reach the C-suite. One of the ways is as a leapfrog leader. Often organizations are looking for leaders who can respond to change and disruption. Boards and CEOs might be looking for people who will break with tradition, and in those times, the CEO might set aside a tenured leader to promote people who are a few levels down in the organization. They do this because they feel like it's this less likely candidate who will be able to deliver the right mindset and then set a new standard for the organization. If you want to be a leapfrog leader, you need to be ready to confront ongoing industry disruption and present yourself as a strong champion for change. If you've been in an organization for a very long time, it's possible that you've grown a little bit too comfortable. So be honest, have you been resisting some change? If you're not interested in changing organizations in order to create a bigger impact, but you do desire to have a bigger impact in your own organization, I want you to start to notice where you are resisting change and why you are resisting it. Again, the change is inevitable. You can't stop it, but you can decide to actively participate in it and even to lead the change from your level. And when that happens, you'll emerge as one of the leaders, one of the champions of change as waves roll in. You can be the one up on the surfboard of the wave, enjoying the ride, or you can be one of the people who feel pulled under by the current. The more you choose to lead the change, you'll be able to make a much bigger impact, and the faster your star will rise. So if you're ready to become a positive change agent, here are 6 steps you can take. Number 1, even the best change agents need senior leadership in the organization to support their cause. Once you're clear that there's something you want to change, something you want to improve, you are going to need more senior people to help you and champion your cause. This is why understanding your organization's strategy is so important. You will want to make sure that any change you're proposing is in line with the general vision for your organization or will directly make progress toward an annual goal. Anybody can decide to be a change agent, which is pretty awesome, but nobody operates outside of the social and political reality of an organization. So yes, change can and often does start from the ground up, but it will not stick without a senior champion. To gain momentum, you're going to have to build cross-department relationships and influence your colleagues. When you do this, consensus will emerge organically, and that will help shift the executive leaders toward full support of your idea. Number 2, build a coalition of people who are believers in your idea. I have another podcast coming up in a few weeks where I'm going to go in depth on this concept, the concept of developing your own followership. You need to develop relationships all around you, not just above you in the chain of command. You're going to need strong support from your direct reports and other peer level colleagues in your organization and across other organizations as well. People who believe in you and believe in your idea. And this doesn't happen overnight. It takes servant leadership. It takes integrity, and it requires that you remain motivated by a greater purpose, one that others believe in just as much. When you remain aligned with some larger purpose, one that many other people believe in, it'll be much easier to get people on board with you. For example, I work for the U.S. Navy, and often when I try to do something, everybody knows how much I care about the sailors and the officers in the fleet, and I want to make sure they have everything they need to properly conduct their missions. So this is an easy North Star that aligns many people across multiple organizations. And when you want to change something, you'll find it easier if you can easily explain why there's a greater good type of motivation, which should help you build a coalition. And when you include a diverse group of other people to work with you, you might find that some of them are already working on their version of improving the situation. And if you band together, you could solve the whole problem a lot easier. Also, if you find that people are giving you especially light resistance, just remember that when people are not included, it dials up the resistance. So invite them to help you, which will often be all it takes to melt their concern. Okay, so number 3, resistance is part of the journey, so welcome it in. In a perfect world, you are going to find an issue, you would design a solution, and then you're going to quickly gain support from your colleagues and senior leadership. That would be awesome. but it's not always going to be that easy. And the bigger the problem is, the less likely it'll be this simple. If you truly want to make a change, it's important to conduct a thorough stakeholder analysis and to make sure that anybody who is highly influential in the effort is brought in early. And you may want to take some different tactics to initially introduce each stakeholder depending on their personality and their role. But when you find one person whose support is critical, but they have a lot of resistance, then take the time to talk with them separately and address their concerns. Listening is often the best way to find a breakthrough with these people. If that person's support is critical, it might be worth compromising to get to a solution that you can both support. Often, their feedback will save you from unintended consequences further down the road. Okay, number 4. When you get any kind of green light for your change idea, be ready to execute. In parallel to the effort you are working to deal with resistance, building your coalition, and going through the process to gain approval of the senior leadership, make sure that at the same time, you're planning how you will execute it if the plan is approved. Those who initially resisted you will be standing by. They're going to just be waiting in the wings to point out when your plan fails. So if you want your change to stick, you need a plan to drive quick results. When your moment comes, be ready to deliver. And once you start delivering positive results, the ones you expected, you'll gain momentum, you'll get more support, and more people will start to get excited and hop on board. And number 5, if you want that change to stick long term, you're going to have to systematize it. So let's say you get the results you're hoping for. Woo, that's awesome. It's very exciting, but you're not done. There is one more very important step. You have to get your change or your improved process transformed into policy or develop SOPs, standing operating procedures, and then always make sure that the captured process is officially improved as necessary. Follow up and make sure people are following the new process. After all, as I said, change is constant. So if you don't get the people taking the actual action, the desired change action, then how will we know when it's time to improve it even further? Okay, so I want to give you one caution about change, and especially being a change agent, because trust me, it's pretty easy to get yourself kind of high on the idea of a change, and especially when you think it's a great innovative idea, that it's very easy to get yourself super excited and motivated while the rest of the world hasn't quite caught up to you. So it's possible to go after something that nobody else will support at all, and that senior leadership is not interested in at all. So there's a difference between resistance and an all-out lack of support across the organization, and especially at higher leadership levels. If you present your idea and you get a direct no, or if you start to sense that you're putting your reputation or your credibility in danger by pushing too hard, you need to take a pause and assess what's really going on here. Because even if you're right, but you're the only one that's read the tea leaves to see the future on this one, you could push too hard too soon and then lose all the support you have within your organization, or you could even get fired. I've actually seen that happen before. And if you feel very passionate that you're right, and this is something you want to pursue, but the organization you're in right now is not interested at all about the ideas you have, you could consider waiting for leadership to change out, or you could stand by and kind of try to quietly educate people and have people catch up with what's happening, or for them to catch up with this shift in the industry, which eventually they do. Or you could decide to find another organization that's more in line with your values and your level of innovation. But just make sure that if you decide to leave your current organization, that you leave on your terms and not because you pushed so hard that you were forced out. So it's often quite surprising to me how few extremely intelligent people use their gifts to drive positive change. I mean, actively drive positive change. The good news is that if you have an idea and you're willing to spend the energy, this fact is one of the reasons that this skill set is the key to rising within an organization. Unbelievably, that rise can happen fairly quick relative to how long it takes some other people to reach these very senior roles. So who are you going to be? If you're ready to be an agent for change, find an issue that your customer needs solved, or some way to improve your organization or drive industry disruption, and decide to be the one who leads the way to the future. This will be good for your customer, for your organization, and this is how you will rise. You can connect with me at Introverted Executive on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're ready for executive coaching to help you achieve your biggest career goals, subscribe to my weekly Rise and Shine newsletter. There, you'll find out when my program opens for new clients, and you'll also receive weekly tips and activities to continue to make a bigger impact in your own powerful way. You'll find all the information and links down in the show notes. See you next week.